All right, everybody, welcome to the show again. My guest today is just an amazingly beautiful and talented woman that I've had the pleasure of working with myself, Thais. She is what you'd call a creatix, which we're going to ask her to explain that here in a second. Um, but I just want to say welcome to the show and thank you for being here today. How you doing?
Man, fantastic. Fantastic, fantastic. How about yourself?
Oh, my life is good.
Yes.
I'm good, man. I'm just on this beautiful journey. I'm loving every second of it.
The wave. I
Yeah.
like it. I like it very much.
So please, could you tell me just a little bit, what is a creatix?
So a creatrix is
Yeah.
basically no worries, no worries. It's basically like I call myself a channel. There's a lot of things that I can do. I'm a creator. Like I do art, I do tarot, I do photography, I do content creating. It is basically a variety of different creative outlooks. I
Hmm.
mean, creative outlets that a
Okay.
person can do from all their creativity. So that's basically what it is.
Okay. So you took the word creative and matrix and blended them. I get it.
Somebody did. That's not my word to
Yeah.
claim, but
These are
somebody
your words.
did.
You definitely embody it. I mean,
I appreciate it.
I'll just say when we met, you were doing tarot at a party, and I
Hmm.
sat down, and I mean, we'll get to this later, but you dropped. I mean, you you were like you were in my head, and I'm like, man, she knows. She like knows literally to the dime, very specific shit that like that.
I be trying to be nice.
Yeah, and so I remember in that moment,
Mm.
I was in awe of that because it's a beautiful gift to have, and we'll talk about that here in a little second. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you come from, your background, etc.
Well, man, I am actually from Long Beach originally.
Okay.
We are LA to the death of us. But LA was really intense, like the curriculum, all the things that basically have been going on in the LA area, for a long time. So we actually came back down here to San Diego so that I can get a better education, we can be in a better environment, and kind of just branch into something new
Yeah.
instead of the craziness that happens in LA is so fast paced. It's not really a slowdown at any given moment. But I actually grew up Jehovah's Witness, so that's where all of this craziness comes from. I drawing since I was so young because I was not confined, but it was kind of just like you're cut off from the world, and especially all the things that I do now, it makes so much sense as to why I felt like it's almost like you're in a cocoon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're not birthed yet. I literally didn't feel like I woke up until I was like 19 years old when I decided to separate from it because it gave me so much anxiety. I was pretty much just around me, my mom and my sister. My dad, he was actually away. He was locked up at the time. So me and female energy is what I was used to for a very long time. I had to get used to masculinity, but also because I also have masculinity, everyone has that yin and that yang, right? I had to get familiar with not just what I was used to, but what I wasn't used to. I met a friend. She and I were friends for a long time. We're not friends anymore, but one thing I did learn from that situation, because I feel like you can learn something from every friendship, every love relationship,
Yeah.
etc. She taught me about spirituality, and she told me one day, she was like, you should go on YouTube and look up tarot reading. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, in my mind, I'm Jehovah Witnessed out. I'm like, I don't know. It just sounds demonic. I can't do it. And then when I actually looked at a reading, I was like, this woman is in my head. Like, what is happening? She knows everything of what's happening. Like, she knows how to express it. She knows who the people around me, what those signs are. I'm like, I have to get into this. I am always the friend that is helping people out. Especially with me knowing my zodiac signs now, it all makes sense. I'm both the empath and the solutionist. I
Mhm.
will help you, but I will also listen to you, but we're gonna find a solution. That's just what it is. So once I started getting into tarot, man, it was a wrap. Sorry, I don't mean to talk for an hour,
No, no,
but
no. We're here to hear about you, honestly, and what you bring.
good, my mouth gets away with me. So basically, I had a deck of cards. They have always been super therapeutic for me. I used to play cards with my dad when he was actually locked up, and that is how I got used to shuffling and getting used to, just feeling it in my hands, like therapy one-on-one. But I laid out a spread with only my deck of cards that actually derive from tarot cards. And
Okay.
I never knew that. I never knew that. So when I was looking it up, I actually started bawling out crying because I was with the friend I told you about. I was so confused with what was happening within our relationship. Everything that kind of just felt like there's a tower card inside of the deck. It basically means it's like a burning building that you don't want to fall, but it has to fall in order for something new to come around. So
Whoa.
that's yeah, it's one of my favorite cards in the decks actually. Um, but everything that I looked up from the cards that were laid out in front of me was exactly what I was going through. And I was like, I want to start doing this for other people to see if it resonates with them too. So I actually wrote on the deck of cards that I have because they don't have names or titles on them so that I can know if it's reversed or if it's upright. Now, in tarot, reversed and upright, they're different meanings. So I started doing it for other people. They started resonating with it. And I got to the point where I was like, okay, Thais, like how many times are you going to give out free readings? Like people really, really resonate with what it is that you're doing. It's time for you to just like showcase, start doing events. And that's basically what happened. One guy, he let me do my tarot at his event, and I was like, I made so much money, and I think back then I charged like $10 for a reading, and
Yeah.
it was like so impactful to me to see that when people look at me and sometimes they don't have to say anything and I just lay out the cards, tell them what's happening, and they're like, wow, like I didn't want to tell you anything just to see if you would actually be accurate because there's a lot of phony people out there.
So let me ask you this. So okay, so I understand the process, right? But like there's has to be some kind of like intuition that you're using for these cards. So like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
did you were you always intuitive as a child? Did it come something that like came with the cards? Like can you explain a little bit about that side of it?
That's actually very interesting you ask because I do consider myself a very intuitive person. I have a lot, apparently, my friend, she read me to fill. I have a lot of witch placements, apparently. It's very intuitive placements. But in my opinion, and to a lot of readers' opinions, you don't necessarily have to have this intuitive knowledge. Like, you can be intuitive, yes, it helps, but when you memorize every single card, you eventually get a gist of the intuition, if that makes sense. So, for example, I would say if the Two of Cups was out, it could necessarily mean that there's a love connection. But if it's next to, let's say, collaborations, I would say that you and whoever you're collaborating with are going to have a really good business connection. So, yes, it's about intuition. I did always know that I was empathic because I was so sensitive as a kid.
Yeah.
So sensitive. I had really bad friends around me only because I had a good heart, but I never knew that the reason why I had a good heart was because I was a healer. I didn't know any of that until I got like 19, 20, like I mentioned before. Um, and when I really just started tapping into who I am and how much emotional intelligence I have. But yeah, I feel like anyone can really tap into it if they have the spirit to do so.
Yeah. And what was it difficult to transition away from your religious background into like I mean a spiritual plane? I mean, that's got to be a tough.
100%.
I mean, that's about as much of a 180 as you're going to get, right?
360, like I literally, when I say I've transformed so many different times, like it's ridiculous. The first time I used to get anxiety going to they call it the Kingdom Hall. I used to get so much anxiety, but nobody ever tells me what, nobody tells a kid what anxiety is. They don't tell you how to transform. They don't even tell you how to, manage your bank account. So when it came down to me transitioning from that religion to that one, like when I say I've done so many things, you have no idea. Every single year I change, my hair changes, my friends change. Me having to search for myself, it was to me, it was really intense. I went through a moment of suicide and depression because of the simple fact I was confused about who I was. I
Mm.
didn't know if God liked me because of all the different things that I really love to do, but what is against, within the religion.
Yeah.
So I had to be, and man, I was just, now that I think about it later on down the line, I'm like, I really was intuitive because there was something when I was crying, I was just gonna literally end it all, but there was something that told me like to be peace, like there's something that is coming, and I just felt like it was bigger than me. And I actually went to go tell my best friend at the time, and he didn't listen to what I was saying. And I was like, I gotta leave this friendship. Like we keep doing things that are detrimental for us. Like
Yeah.
we're abusing substances. Like we're doing all different types of things instead of focusing on what our actual purpose is. So there, like I said, there's been a lot of expansion. It's been a lot of diving deep within inside of myself. But I would not trade it for the world. I think it's
Yeah. I
so
feel you.
beautiful. Even meeting people like you, everyone that I've met along my journey has been perfect for what exactly I'm going through during the moment and for the future.
Yeah, it's the stuff, it really shapes us into our path, right? Like these things we come through, these things we go through, they really
Mhm.
they really help focus us and bring us to a center point of our divine purpose. And it's beautiful when you are willing to accept that and embrace it, what you have. I mean, what you did was very bold. You went
Mhm.
against the thought of, does God like me? I mean, just think of that concept alone. Like that's fucked up to have to choose. And
You know?
you know what I mean? Like you made a
Yes.
choice, but the choice
Mhm.
was, it was like you knew it was right the whole time. And it's
Mhm.
just, it's beautiful that you had the ability to honor that. And so
Right.
if we go into the tarot here,
Mhm.
so like I volunteer at this crystal shop, and so I know what the tarot is. But
Mhm.
how would you, if someone said like, what the hell is the tarot? What would you say to them?
I would have to say, because there's many depictions, whatever. I'm going to tell you my definition.
Yeah,
I would say it is about divine clarification. Like when I put the cards out, like I said, it is not a judgment because I read myself for filth. It is about guidance. It's about finding that key within the cards. It's a story. It's like a cheat sheet to life. Like, I don't know how else to explain it. When people don't believe in it, when they don't like it, I'm like, you don't understand. Like, it's not just about the death card. It's
yeah,
like, it's more than that. It's the beauty behind it. It gives you so much information that can really help sustain your life and help build you into not just your purpose, but within your relationships. It is, to me, it's a staple within your spirituality. Everyone has different staples. Some people have yoga and meditation. Mine is those things as well, but I throw in a little bit of tarot for my intuition, my mind, because logic is important, but so is love.
yeah. So
Yeah.
so when we met, the
Mhm.
event I was at, I remember I saw you. You're doing the tarot. I was like, I'm gonna come just sit down and see what this girl's doing, right? And I sat down, and we chatted for a little bit, and you threw down these cards. And I'll just be completely honest, at the time I had gone through a breakup. And you said, oh, you're doing the breakup thing. And I'm like, all right, maybe I have bags under my eyes. Like, I don't know. Like, she
No.
could tell I was crying. um
I'm dead.
and then you said something that I just like, I still struggle with. So you said, but it's all right because it was karma being fulfilled. And what's interesting about that is, about
Wow.
6 months before that, I had done a past life regression. And in
Mm.
the regression, I
Mhm.
was sitting in front of this girl named Abigail,
Mhm.
and I was in love with her.
Mhm.
And I had left this girl because I was
Mm.
afraid, because I wasn't good
Mhm.
enough. All right.
Mhm.
And so I'm sitting with my girlfriend. I was at her parents' house, and I'm talking with her mom, and she says to me, she says, you know, we almost named so and so Abigail. And I just froze, and I was like, oh, it makes sense. Like why she had the eyes. When I first met her, I thought the same thing because her dad's
100%.
wealthy. I'm like, fuck, man, that girl's dad's got money. Like, what am I gonna
Mhm.
do? Like,
Right. That's what
um,
she's used to, right.
yeah. And so
Mhm.
I transcended that. Like I because of that regression, I was able to get past that. But then when you said that at the reading,
Mm.
that is so specific and so accurate. And so my question for you now is like, what is it like on your end of this, right? Like I'm the receiver in that case, but like for you,
Mhm.
what is it like? You're not just shuffling cards and talking, are you?
No. It's it's crazy you say that because there's always something like specific. I used to literally deny my intuition all the time, but every time the cards lay out, like it's not just about the shuffle. Like there are downloads that come to me every time I do a reading, and people, I tell them it, you could be going through breakup situations, but what will come out is what you're meant to hear. That's on my end. Again, it's downloads. Like I sometimes I'm like, I don't know if this is gonna make sense to them. I don't know where it's coming from, but I feel like I have the urge to tell them because something's telling me to tell that person. I have the same actual thing happen. I have a gorgeous client that I actually just met, her and her husband. I read their whole family. And there was a card that comes out, and it comes out all the time. But for some reason, I had to tell her that, hey, like, I don't know if you're taking a trip to Greece. And she literally froze and stared at me. She was like, we're actually planning a trip right now to Greece for December. And I was like, sometimes you just I listen to those little voices now because it's accurate. It's something that you're meant to hear, you know?
So it still surprises you.
It does. I'm not I'm
Really?
not gonna lie. You second guess yourself. I still second guess my I've been doing this now for 3 years, and it's not really about second guessing. It's more like, why am I getting this in my mind? I don't know, but now I'm realizing because I'm intuitive, I pick up on other people's like thoughts, other
Yeah.
people's emotions, things that are pretty much going on. I'm super empathic. So yeah, that's how it is on my end. It's trippy for you and it's trippy for me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So I
yeah.
just like the way you do it. It was so beautiful, and your deck
Thank you.
wasn't like any other deck I've ever seen. Is that first one you had, or is that one you that came into
First.
your life?
That was crazy enough. I'll tell you a quick story.
Yeah,
I went into this crystal shop in North Park, and I haven't been there since. But there was this guy behind the counter, and he like reads auras and everything. And he was like, like, what sign are you? And I was like, oh, I'm a Cancer. And he was like, oh, I have this oracle deck for you. But there was this deck, the deck that you've seen,
yeah,
it was right directly in back of him. And as he was moving over there, like I was literally like, I felt like I was already in a relationship with the deck.
yeah,
I'm like, I have to get that deck. And he's like, you got to know the difference between light and the dark. And I was like, well, I'm the moon. You know what I mean? Like I am the light in the dark.
yeah,
So I kind of just didn't buy it from him because he really made it seem like it was something that was super detrimental to my life. And I went and bought it anyway. And I can't tell you how many readings people have told me are spot on. When your spirit knows, like I'm so hard headed because my spirit knows. Like
yeah.
it's bigger than me at this point, Right.
It was. I honor you for saying that. And so, I'm just curious. What is the difference between the light and the dark with the decks?
Mm. So I know we're gonna talk about the difference
Yeah,
between the tarot and the oracle. I don't know if that's now. Did you
yeah.
want me
We
to?
could we could dive into that right now. I mean, this is a perfect segue to that.
Perfect. So, duality, the yin and the yang. There is a light, there's a dark, there's a masculine, there is a feminine. There is light, but there's also openness when it comes to the light aspect. When it comes to the dark, a lot of people don't realize that feminine energy actually is dark energy and masculinity is light energy. there's always someone telling, women and men how they should be, but it's not about that. It's whatever flows with you. There's a lot of people that also don't realize, because they are masculine and feminine, that sometimes men have more feminine energy and women have more masculine energy. It, the yin and the yang, the duality, it's who you are. It's the logic and the love. It's half and half. I feel like if you don't embrace that part of you and you're always trying to deny that part of you, there is going to be a huge chunk of you that is kind of suppressed, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes you it's almost like you're pretending to be something that you're not. That's who you are. That's how you take action. That is how you think. It's how you love. Duality is important. Now, when it comes to the tarot and the oracle, the difference between is there's a lot of different tarot decks and a lot of different oracle decks.
Yeah.
But one thing that tarot decks have in common is that there is approximately always 78 cards. And they're always the same traditional systematic approach. So there's minor arcana and there's major arcana. Major arcana is pretty much like the aces. So if you get like the Ace of Pentacles, for example, there's a lot of opportunities that are coming in because pentacles represent earth.
Okay.
So there's different types of suits. And then for the minor arcana, it's pretty much cups, like I said, cups, pentacles, wands, and swords. So swords would represent air energy and transformation, and not just transformation, but communication. So that's tarot. It's, to me, it's really deep. It's like I can pull like four cards for you and probably three cards and tell you a whole lot about your life just from those three cards getting pulled out. And that's how in depth and in detail tarot can get. When it comes to oracle, it's whatever the person wants to make it. Whoever is the originator, the creator,
Yeah.
you can make an oracle deck with a bunch of funky cards, beautiful cards, and write one message on it, and you can easily pull that card in the morning and be like, you know what? I do need to just wait. You know what? I do need to be just patient. They're like messages, but they're really also in depth messages, but it's a lot more light. That's what I
Okay,
think
so
it
it's
is.
almost like, I mean, tell me if this is just me trying to make an analogy because that's the way my brain works. Would you say a tarot deck
No
is
worries.
like having the alphabet at your disposal and just you can put any collection
Mm,
of letters and words together
like
and a
Scrabble.
like Scrabble, and an oracle deck is almost like pre-made messages that are for you.
That kind of makes sense. Yes.
Okay.
I would have to say that it is a story when it comes
Okay.
to the both of them, but yes, I like that. I like it
Okay.
very
'Cause
much.
I have an oracle deck I use, and whenever I have times where I'm like, man, I need a little bit of a direction, I'll pull it, and it's like you said, there's one meaning. I
One.
go to the page number, I read that, I'm like, let's
Yes.
go. Yeah,
The
yeah,
books. The books come in clutch because sometimes I can look at it and I'll be like, oh yeah, you just need to wait. But then when you actually read like the message behind it, it's way more in depth. It's so beautiful.
and
Man.
I love what you said about the masculine and feminine because so
Mhm.
often we, especially as like a man, I can only speak from a male.
Yeah.
Obviously, I am manifested with this amount of masculine energy. It's why I'm a male.
Hmm.
But we forget sometimes that we come from the energy of a woman and a
Hmm.
man, and so we have both
Right.
of these. And so I remember I met this lady. I
Exactly.
did a podcast with her, and she put me on in with one of her attunements in order to get connected with my divine feminine.
Hmm.
And doing that meditation she gave me brought so much to my life, and it wasn't like I became, some other person. It just opened up an element of my being that I had suppressed, like you said. And so it's so
100%.
beautiful to be able to honor that, especially as a man, right? Like
Hmm.
you get so caught up in like I got to be a man,
Right.
but like what about that other energy? There's
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah, man, that's what I have to tell people. It's not like you're turning into a woman, you're not transitioning, you're not turning into a man. Like It's when it comes to feminine energy, how are you taking care of yourself, you know? Like, how are you giving yourself love? How are you spreading that love outward? When it comes to your masculine energy, how are you moving through the world, you know? How are you dominating in your own purpose? Like, it's just about strength and vulnerability. Like, and that goes both ways as well.
Yeah, I
It's
can tell you when that feminine energy came into my life, there was a level of self-care, uh, just treatment of my own body that I had neglected, right? Like I should play
mhm,
sports, I don't have to do anything. And then after that, it just came like this, it almost felt like more self-love, to be honest with you.
mhm,
That's what it felt like came into my life with that feminine. So
mhm.
I gotta say that's that's one of those things that I'll never forget. And so let me ask you this now. Let's say someone's listening, they're like, all right, I want to get a deck. Just the
Mhm.
average person, what would you recommend, one or the other? Would you say Oracle to start with?
Hmm. I would say listen to your intuition
Okay.
because someone told me, like we talked about, someone told me to get an oracle deck, and I didn't believe him. I like I said, I got a huge spirit that talks to me. It is whatever your intuition speaks to, because that is what's going to help you on your journey. And if you don't like it, get the next one.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. It's spirituality. You can dibble and dabble in whatever it is that you like. It's creativity, it's life, anything you want. You are not you're not stuck, right? You are not defined by anything. So if it is something that you want to tap into, you just got to be bold enough to try different things and
Yeah.
open as well.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. And I think there's a lot
Thank
of
you.
ways to receive messages. And I know one of those ways that you and I were speaking of earlier is through dreaming, right? Like
Mm.
the message receiving dreams. And can you talk about the interpretation of dreams and some of the stuff you talk about to people in that sector?
I encourage a lot of people to look up their dreams, and I'm a very dreamy person, but you'll be very surprised with how many people actually have vivid dreams too. Everybody has their own personal magic. But there is a lot of symbolism in dreams. There's a lot of connections. There's a lot of foreshadowing. There's a lot of connections that pretty much are depicted, even if it's for 10 minutes of a dream. I remember I'll tell you a couple of instances here. I remember I had a dream, and the friend, she was not really a good friend. It was when I was kind of just in between of where I was in my life,
Mhm.
and where I wanted to go. But I had a dream, Jesus, I had a dream about me walking in an old school of mine. She was walking with me. We had on all black. I saw an old friend of mine. She was a hippie. And I was like, what does this have to do with anything? But it turns out my friend was very much into spirituality, which is why she was a hippie. But I walked into this field with this same girl that was my old friend. And all of a sudden, she's walking behind me. And I'm like, well, after I woke up, I'm like, well, why is she walking behind me? She disappears, and the field that we're in turns into a lake. And the lake has, when you see those mossy logs in a lake,
Yeah.
they were all at the bottom. I was standing right on top of one, and there was a white owl that flew in. And then all of a sudden, there were white owls everywhere, and I fell into the lake. Now, I looked it up. A lot of people think owls, obviously, it's white, it's purity, but also owls represent transformation, but also the dark parts of like ghost energy, but also wisdom that they're trying to show
Yeah,
you,
for
you
sure.
know? Yeah, so I just stopped being friends with that person. I'm like, I really don't need any more clarification because of how I was already feeling and not really listening to my intuition. And I had something come to me in my dreams. And then I had another dream with wolves, which is actually one of my spirit animals. And I was running with wolves. I looked it up, and it was saying I was running with people that were trustworthy. So I have to let people know that even if it's you looking in the mirror in your dream, look it up. If it's you putting on a shirt that's a red color, look it up. If you see an ocean, a lot of the time an ocean represents you're either going to be talking in front of a lot of people or you're going to be impacting a lot of people. Hmm. So, man, I would have to say, just like tarot, just like meditation, just like ayahuasca, dreams, they are the key to your purpose. And I think it is very important for you to look up every single one if you can remember it. Again, even if it's the smallest detail, because it is very prevalent to what you're going through in the current moment.
That's absolutely beautiful. There's a guy that I follow for my regression studies,
Hmm.
and he always talks about creating a dream journal. And he says if you just write down your dreams every morning in this journal, it helps you actually to remember them.
Exactly.
Just so if anyone's looking for a tactic, that
Hmm.
is something. Yeah, the dream stuff, because there's some of those dreams that come and they're not dreams. You can tell they're actual messages. It's like they're almost so vivid and so real that you wake
Right.
up and you're like, okay, there was something I'm supposed to listen to here.
Hmm.
And so that's a beautiful thing to start bringing to your life. I think.
Sometimes I wake up and I'm still tired because of how much I feel like I was moving in my dream. I don't know if that has anything else to do with like a spiritual approach. I got to talk to somebody about this, but a lot of scientists can't even like explain it. But there's people that have premonition dreams. I've
Yeah.
talked to a lot of like older witches and they tell me that like they have premonition dreams and I have deja vu dreams. Deja vu dreams are a
Yeah.
part of premonitions. Also, there's times where it's like I think about somebody in my dream and then what is all this noise outside? Anyways, um, someone comes up in the dream and then if I see them probably like twice, they end up popping up in my real life. So apparently that's a part of having a premonition dream as well. It's
You
a
said something.
connection.
You said something about your energy in the mornings. From what I understand from the spiritual work I do is right. You drop into these different levels of consciousness, right?
Hmm.
You have dream sleep, and then you have dreamless sleep. And from what I
Mm,
understand is that when your consciousness pulls back into that dreamless phase, every single night you're reconnecting with the source of energy that provides that spark to your body, right? It's 30%. I think of what I read is 30% of your body is from God, the energy is from God, and 70% is made up from what we take in through nutrients, right? Through
right.
sustenance, through food, etc.
Hmm.
So what I was understanding from everything I read is that when you do not fall into that dreamless state and you're in that premonition state, you're not fully reconnecting, and so you do wake up feeling tired. There's actually a technique you can do, and I've done it a few times, where if you stay
Hmm.
awake to the very last moment when you're about to fall asleep and you maintain your consciousness, you're completely aware of your inner body, you
Hmm.
can sink into the dream phase and you can almost see yourself looking through the eyes. I've done it before and you get tired
Yes.
instantly.
Wow.
It's really cool.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's a guy named Sadhguru who's an Indian
Hmm.
mystic who talks about that. That's where I got the technique from. I've done it twice and I'll never do it again because you wake up feeling like you didn't sleep.
I'm telling you, it's literally how I feel. And I listen to like sleep meditations, guided meditations every night because I don't even know my life without it anymore. It really helps me just all of the access energy that I have to just be at peace and just to chill out. And that's crazy how you say about the whole God situation. That's what I really didn't, I don't mean to go back, but I got to bring this in um, with the whole religious standpoint and what I didn't understand. Because within the Bible, it tells you that you are made in God's image, you
Mhm.
know? And a lot of people, they don't want to act on their greatness because they feel like it's something that's going to go against God's regulations. And I'm like, you are magic. Everybody is
Yeah,
magic. You are your own universe and you live within a universe. It just doesn't connect.
yeah.
It doesn't connect. But yeah, I like that. That's very beautiful.
And so, is there, so when people reach out to you, what's the primary mode you like people to contact you? Like, I obviously you said you do events. Like, what else do you do? How do you connect with people?
I do a lot of my readings virtual, especially since this whole COVID situation has been happening. Just send me your number and we can FaceTime. But I really don't mind phone call readings as well. But Instagram, my YouTube channel 7, we are officially getting our videos produced now. So I feel really good to give my audience, my people, my clients, like something worth looking at and not just getting a great reading for me, but a general reading for your week. So, yeah, Instagram along with YouTube. Those are my two main platforms. Nothing else exists, guys. Me, Seven of Clubs on Instagram, and then my other platform, YouTube, is Channel 7.
Channel 7. Okay. And I'll when I post this podcast and everything, I'll have all that link on
Mhm.
the bottom. And again, I want to thank you. I know that you are, I'll see you in a few weeks. You're doing an event that
Yes.
I'm hosting. So I want to thank you so much for that. It's
Woo!
going to be awesome. I'm going to sit down again because I'm like,
Yes.
let me test this girl out again. Because the first time was too good. I gotta double check this.
I got you.
But
I love that.
I want to thank
It's
you
good
so
every time, I promise.
yeah, I want to thank you so much, not just for coming on the podcast, because that's such a small piece of this all, but
Mm,
for sharing with us, and mostly for just honoring yourself and following that voice in your head, because it's brought you here and it's brought
mhm.
joy to the life of many people, including myself. That message you gave me helped me deal with
Mm,
that situation by knowing that the karma was something that I needed, right? Like you needed to
yes.
fulfill this, and so it really did bring peace to my life. And so I need to
Mm,
thank you for that. And I
thank
know
you.
there's countless other people you
Mhm.
work with. And so I would just, I would say to anybody listening, reach out to this gal because she's a beautiful person.
Thank you.
She's serving humanity. And I'm really thankful for you to be here. Is there
Yes.
anything you'd like to close with just for the people?
I definitely want to say to follow your inner guidance, even when other people don't necessarily agree with it or can connect to it. You are a channel of your own. Like it is about your purpose, your future, what you want to look like, what you want to dress like, and who you want to love, including yourself. So I think it's very important to keep moving forward and to not be stuck, but to keep evolving.
Mm,
Yes.
there's a word I learned recently called basi, and it means truth.
Mm.
So I'll say to that, basi, basi, basi.
Basi, basi. I love that.
Well, Artie, I appreciate you so much, and have yourself a beautiful evening. And
Peace and blessings.
thank you again.